One of the other things you mentioned was about the kind of downstream implications. So I'm interested to know, for you and your team, when you're helping your buyer engage a service provider, scope it out, it sounds like you've got involvement through the delivery phase as well. Is that right, in terms of you're kind of helping them keep an eye on it, helping them shift, bring in new requirements and kind of take things further as they go? Changes, stuff like that?
I think we do. And I think it's evolved a lot over the years, because I think in the past, maybe a source and a procurement function would be seen to let's get the contract done and we walk away, and maybe let supplier management, vendor management, or the buyer manage that delivery element. So I just think, because what we're delivering now, it's always been complex, but I think there's more of an understanding that procurement, we need to stay close to these projects, so we understand it, because ultimately we need to be there ready for when to make sure things are going well through the life cycle of that, but also being ready for the next phase. What's the next phase going to be? And by sometimes I hate some of the corporate terms, but partnering with your stakeholders and being with them for their journey is so important, because if you walk away and you're told 6 months' time, a year's time, that there's something's gone wrong, or you need to renew the contract, and if you've not stayed reasonably close to it, then you're starting from scratch each time, and you're not offering any real value, and you're not challenging, you're not able to then influence that piece of work and the outcome you're trying to achieve as well. So I think it's really important you do stay close to the project you're working on, and managing capacity though is tough doing that, because obviously there's a lot to it, and you're stepping out. Sometimes you might be feeling like people are stepping outside of the constraints of what their role should be. But I'm all for, the more you get involved and the more you understand the project through delivery, the more value you can add at the when you get to the point of contracting or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, just purely from a tech angle on that, I think it's really interesting in the sense that for us as a tech provider in the service procurement space, we always look at full life cycle.
Yeah.
All of the upfront stuff, all of the sourcing, the contracting, and then critically the downstream. It never ceases to amaze me how many organisations, their procurement function, do not look at the downstream.
Yeah.
Because it's partly because they're just targeted on up to the point of contracting.
Indeed.
But it's like, that doesn't work in services. It changes, and it gets I've gone with consultancy A over consultancy B because they've got a lower day rate. Oh well, guess what? It's taken them twice as long as they quoted for. Yeah. They've got 5 extensions, and it really amazes me how many organisations, the procurement, are not incentivized or motivated to follow the projects through to completion. And that's where I think having this focus on what are the requirements around buying services is really important, because if you're procuring goods and materials, it's a different setup.
Yeah.
And I think the way that the technology supports that is very mature, in the sense that you have catalogue buying, guided buying, but the thing you're buying is easy to define and measure, and it doesn't change. It's you're buying 50, 2 kilo red widgets, and it is what it is. You can compare price, you can compare quality and stuff like that quite easily. There are complexities around the supply chain.
Yeah.
But that's almost like, I always say, that's like the reverse of services, because the supply chain is generally quite simple, but the thing you're buying is hard to define, hard to measure.
Yeah.
And I just think that's missed. If people aren't following up the downstream, they're only getting a tiny bit of the picture.
Well, absolutely. So you can't walk away. I think you need to stay involved, and I think I don't think it's not valued. I think it's more a case of maybe you've got a capacity constraint, because your procurement team, that function, that services team, is not large enough to be able to stay involved, and I think that's an ongoing challenge, because you can only have so many people in the team doing this stuff, and they've got to focus on what they can, but ultimately I really do ask and challenge my team to stay involved as much as possible, because then that way you can help your stakeholder throughout the life cycle of their journey, whether it's implementation or something else.
Yeah, and I also think when you look at that capacity issue, that is also where automation, AI, can be really useful. And it's interesting to still see some resistance to that sort of thing within some procurement teams, because you will tend to get some procurement teams that might think, is this going to take my job away? Yeah. But I guess if they're doing very transactional based activities, that's their thought process. Yeah. Whereas for you guys in your team, you're thinking strategically.
Oh, absolutely.
So if you can automate stuff, the team are probably going to be like, great, I've got more data.
They'll be delighted. The guys in the team are in terms of capacity, they're struggling with, it's the mundane or the repetitive tasks of maybe it's negotiating a basic part of an SOW or the upfront piece, and that stuff is not the value-added piece. The value-added piece is, as you say, is working through delivery. How do you want to construct the SOW? How do you want to make sure you've got the right structure to whether it's milestones or something else that actually deliver it. And then, as you say, staying with the stakeholder through the life cycle is where we want to focus their time. The more automation AI you can bring into the process, I think the guys and gals would love it ultimately, and they're definitely not pushing back on how we can bring in those kind of tools and support that can help them.